This is TWiT.
I am excited to be joined today by The Verge's own Alison Johnson, who is here to tell us about the Google Pixel 10 Pro. Welcome to the show, Alison.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on. Pleasure to chat with you about this because we, got Jimmy Fallon's introduction to these devices.
He was very excited. Yeah.
Yeah, he was very excited. And I would love to, and I think our listeners too, would love to hear a little bit more about it. It seems like the review embargo is up. You had a chance to check it out. And kind of kicking things off, your review does seem to kind of frame this Pixel 10 Pro not just as a phone itself, but more importantly, perhaps, the vehicle for Google's AI. Like a chip is a vehicle for dip, or a sandwich is a vehicle for toppings. You kind of call it the phone's main character. Could you tell us what it means for a phone to be so centered around AI?
Yeah, and I think Google has been kind of pitching us on this for the past few Pixel phones, saying they're AI first phones. It's supposed to make your life easier and all this. But on the 10 Pro, I feel like it starts to come together in a way. Previously, it's sort of been, AI is in this app. You can talk to Gemini. Gemini can be in your Google Docs. It was just sort of all over the place. But this time around, there's a little bit more of a glue, I think, to holding it together. Absolutely.
Now, one of the features that I think I was certainly excited to see mentioned on the show, because a talk show, was the MagicQ. That one seemed to be quite helpful. And you talk about how it kind of lives up to its promise. Could you tell us a little bit about MagicQ, what it does, and perhaps some real world examples of when it helped save you time or effort?
So MagicQ is interesting. It's sort of always floating around in the background. It's not so much an app you interact with, but the idea is it runs on device and it works in specific apps, Google apps like Messages, Gmail, Calendar, and it's sort of just always checking what you're doing and seeing if it can pull up a helpful piece of information and sort of suggest it for you. So one way I found it really helpful was in Messages. I was chatting with a friend. We're going to get coffee, and he suggested a day. It gives you a little prompt to check your calendar, which is good because I'll agree to stuff and then have to go, oh, I'm sorry, I was actually busy then. I do that constantly. And so we, settled on a time, and then you get a prompt that's like, put this on your calendar, and you tap it, and it has all the details right there for you. I'm terrible at calendars. I don't know how a person is terrible at calendars, but I will put things for the wrong day. I'll just not put something on the calendar, and then it's a surprise to my husband. I'm like, I'm sorry, you have to pick up our child from daycare. So this is not like, I wouldn't say, earth-shattering, life-changing stuff, but it was just a few little moments like that where I was like, oh, I can see how this is going to be really helpful for me.
Absolutely. I think sometimes it is, though, there's sometimes these pie in the sky ideas with AI, but it is these small changes that really make a big difference. One of the, I was speaking with I think it was Patrick Holland from CNET last week, who kind of did a wrap up of the show. And something that stuck out to me, this next question, was I didn't realize how much of the stuff that's going on, and MagicQ as an example, is happening on device. And I think that makes a big difference. The Tensor G5 chip seems to be kind of a turning point for Google, which is known for doing a lot of the cloud side and server side processing, enabling many of these AI features to run on device. What difference does this actually make for users in terms of privacy and performance?
It is mostly a privacy thing, and it's, I think, a really good thing, especially with something like MagicQ, where it's not doing something like taking screenshots of your screen and constantly saving them or anything like that. But it is paying attention to the context and what you're doing and what's on your screen. So knowing that stays on device, and it doesn't save them for very long. I think it's maybe seconds, rather than hours or something. Knowing that's all staying on device and it's not going up to, a cloud server, and making a round trip there is really, I think, the peace of mind that I need to kind of feel like, okay, I will use this and I'll not feel a little weird and creeped out by it.
Yeah.
So that's mainly, especially with something, there's a journal app too this time around, which I have mixed feelings about, but they use AI to, it reads your entries and it'll prompt you with reflections or say, you talked about this yesterday. Maybe how are you feeling about it a little bit later? I would not want that going to a cloud server, definitely. So it's a peace of mind, definitely, for me.
Absolutely. Now, you also tested kind of on the flip of that, the ProRes zoom feature that uses AI to enhance photos at extreme zoom levels. It's the zoom and enhance we've all been waiting for.
It is.
Does this feature, though, work well? And when does it start to break down or produce something where you go, this thing's shopped, I can tell by the pixels?
So this is on the two Pro phones exclusively, and it is in the camera app itself. But you only notice it only kicks in when you're at 30 times zoom all the way up to 100 times. So this is digital zoom. It's well past what the optical zoom is, 5x. Typically you get a pretty bad image. It's just doesn't have a lot of data to work with. It's filling in things with algorithms to try and decide what pixel is what. So instead of one of those kind of traditional algorithms, this is a generative AI diffusion model that's looking at your photo and deciding, okay, this is this and this is that. All runs on device, and it happens after you take the photo. So you see it kind of go through, and you keep the original, and then you get this new AI'd version. And if you're closer to the 30 times zoom range, it's impressive. It's very good, honestly. I'm one to avoid taking digital zoom photos just because I know they're not good typically. But it does a way better job than what I've seen in the past. Out towards 100 times, there's just a lot going on. You have like atmospheric haze. You're shaking your hand, and
right.
It has a lot harder time. So you get things that you're like, that does kind of look like a crane wading in a pond, but I'm not going to frame that one.
Could be a towel sculpture on a bed instead of.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit.
Kind of stepping away from AI for a moment, one of the big hardware updates that we saw was the inclusion of the Qi 2 wireless charging standard. For anyone who's not familiar, because there's different Qi versions, can you tell us a little bit about Qi 2? What does it actually add? And magnets. What's the big deal about magnets?
Yeah. So anyone in the Apple ecosystem will know this basically as MagSafe. So it's a wireless charging standard. You don't necessarily need to have the magnets. There have been other phones. Samsung's phones support Qi 2, but in a way where you need to use a case that has the magnets to get the full experience. Mm-hmm. Google has included Qi 2 full on, magnets are built into the phone. You don't need a special case. So you get the wireless charging speeds on the regular 10 and the Pro, it's 15 watts. And then the Pro XL will go up to 25 watts wireless charging on a Qi 2 stand. And it's Google's calling it Pixel Snap. So that's their word for MagSafe, I guess. And it's really just kind of a convenience. They have a couple of accessories. There's a wireless charging stand and like a little ring you magnet to the back of the phone that's kind of pop socket-ish. I never use a case with a phone. This is probably a bad life choice, but I live with it anyway. So I find it super handy if I'm going to use something like that and just kind of like plopping it onto the wireless charger at the end of the day and knowing I don't need to kind of like get it into the right
shift
position.
It just right. Yeah, absolutely.
It is nice.
I agree. I mean, I'm in the Apple ecosystem for the most part. And I remember when wireless charging first hit and I had this sort of silly, pedantic problem with wireless charging because to me, there was a wire running from the charger. Therefore, it's not true. What I saw is true wireless charging.
Yeah.
But I am a convert entirely. My phone right now is thwacked to a wireless charger. And so I'm glad that everybody's getting to kind of join the fun of that because it just makes it really easy to mount your phone wherever you need to. Getting back, though, into the AI of it all, you do mention, and we even talked a little bit now about some AI features that feel kind of gimmicky. Can you tell us about one or two that you feel missed the mark, at least in their first iteration?
Yeah. And Google's been kind of piling these things on, over the past couple of years. So, but the new one this year that kind of stands out is the journaling app. And I don't really have a problem with it, on principle, I guess. A journal app is fine if that's where you want to journal. The AI-ness is a little weird for me. I, wrote some entries and it'll misconstrue things. I mentioned one of my son is in preschool and one of his friends was having her last day and he was sad. The journal thought that she died.
Oh, no.
It said, it's okay to feel sad about her passing. And I was
no.
Hold on here. Yeah. So just strange little moments like that where I'm like, it feels a little weird to know that it's reading your journal. And I think that changes what you say when even if it's, it's not a person, it's an algorithm. And then to get things wrong where I'm like, oh, no, thank you. I think I would opt out of this.
The misunderstandings certainly don't help. I remember using this device, you may have heard, B, and it was this little wrist thing. And I was watching a show and somebody on the show was in the midst of stuff that got them in trouble with the FBI. And later that night, I looked back at my summary and it thought that I was getting questioned by the FBI.
Oh my God.
And then it made me think, at what point does this system need to actually reach out to the authorities because they've heard, you know what I mean? It's processed something that, this person's trying to commit these crimes. Anyway, it made me immediately go, yeah, this is not for me. Thank you. I totally get that. Lastly, to kind of wrap us up here, you described the Pixel 10 Pro. Some of its features, at least, as a glimpse of the future with the messiness of now, right? For someone considering upgrading from an older phone, what makes this worth or perhaps not worth the $1,000 price tag? What could give somebody pause here?
I think my general advice for phone buying is to stick with the one you've got until it's, not working for you anymore. I'm still rocking an iPhone 13 mini, which
nice.
I am not letting go of for many reasons. But what I get to see in my job as a phone reviewer is like the coolest, latest and greatest things that, may trickle down to other devices. They may not. Google wouldn't say whether something like MagicQ is possible to bring to an older Pixel phone. But it is a look at kind of where their thinking is and where they're going. And I'm just really glad to see AI that feels useful and doesn't feel like it's another thing I have to babysit. Like I have to remember to take a screenshot, remember to go ask this app about, ask it in this way so that it understands. This was kind of that first moment where I was like, oh, it will just understand what I need and then do that thing for me. It's still early days, so I would, in MagicQ, it is a bit limited right now, so I definitely wouldn't want anyone rushing out to buy it and thinking it's going to solve all their calendar problems, because maybe not. But it is a glimpse, I think, of where we're headed, and I'm glad that that's where we're going.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, these helpful features that seem to just make light improvements on what we're already doing and maintaining that context, right? I think that's what MagicQ is good about doing, because just like walking into another room and forgetting why you went into that room, I have that on the phone for sure, where I have to go, what was that tracking number again? Oh, wait, why did I come here?
Yes.
So
constantly.
That I think is exciting. Alison, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Of course, people can head over to theverge.com to check out your review of the Google Pixel 10 Pro, but also all of the other great work you're doing there. If people would like to follow you online to keep up with what you're doing, is there a place they should go to do that?
I am Alison Joe 1 at Threads and on Instagram, and you might see some strange AI pictures pop up at some point, just as a warning for what you're in for.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye. You enjoying this tiny taste of Tech News Weekly? I'm happy to hear it. You can check out the full show on our website, twit.tv/TNW, or you can watch it right here on YouTube. Just click the link below.